Okay, we're live. Yay. All right. Say hello to everybody. Hello, everybody. So I hope everybody's doing well and coronavirus is not getting to you. And it's definitely in a major outbreak. And the process of it is definitely in an interchanging process. We have other viruses coming in that are the same virus, but it's mutated. And it's come to New York, and we have a couple cases there. It is in Florida, and Florida's crazier than shit, so it's not a good place to be. It's also in Michigan. It's in other locations, yeah. So we're in process of millions of people getting vaccinated per day, so that's a major increase. The biggest difficulty is the fact that we went through a very long period of receiving false information, lied to a lot, and it drove a lot of people to think that there's a conspiracy going on because of all the lies. And the lies are true. They're lying. He's lying. It's true. It's no doubt about it. Yeah. And there's a lot of other lying going on. That's true. Yeah. It's good to know. Yeah, good to figure that out. Yeah, but when it comes to a lie of corruption to politics and voting and people's human rights and whether or not Asian people should be hung, black people should be hung, the fact that you can't be in America as a Mexican without having a derogatory insinuation that you're a wetback, that you're here out of illegal means, and you're here because you're a bad person, you're a rapist, that you're Mexican, you're a rapist. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Cartel, that's why you're here. That's the reason. It's such a terrible thing. The lies, the exaggeration of wrongness that goes on in the world. Yeah, it's like saying that the majority of people in America are gay. But yet if you really run the polls and ask people, go house to house, anybody in this house gay? There are a lot of them going to go, no, but I know someone down the street, and you finally get there and you find out, well, yeah, there's a couple gay people in this house, and they're definitely recruiting people, so they're trying to create some kind of relationship with more people to create more and more opportunity for gay rights and gay opportunity, for the illusion that there is a lot of people out there who are gay. So they put out flags and they put out advertisement and they do all kinds of things in order to make people believe that there are a lot of people out there and they're suppressed and they're dying, they're killing themselves because you're not allowing them to be gay. You're so prejudiced and biased against gay people. But yet, how would they get this far if we were so prejudiced? We're beyond tolerant. They should be thanking everybody for the tolerance and the kindness and the generation of change that's happened over just the last 20, 30 years. Yeah. So despite the fact that it's bad, it's horrendously bad. But the main thing is that it's a lie. It's a lie of an exaggeration. A delusion of glamour, and it gives people a false impression about society, So and then they could write books and say things as though, you have to be bisexual to be enlightened. You have to be able to love both sexes in order to have a truly compassionate nature. That's all this illusionary mental bullshit, psychobabble of a crazy person who's trying to make a reasoning behind their desire body, their desires, And so people make all kinds of things up, and give reasoning for things, reasoning for mansions, reasoning for fads of having people have tattoos all over. They give reasoning for it, but in truth, you can't give a reason. You really can't. You can't give a reason because as time comes along, these people want to get rid of those tattoos. They don't want to live all their life with that tattoo. It was a bad idea. And that's not taken in consideration. But the outcome of time will be that way. So what is being expressed is a delusion of grandeur in hopes of covering up a mistake. Because that's what we do. That's what people do. They make mistakes. They tolerate shit. Yeah. They go along with stuff. Yeah. As though it's perfectly okay for the porn industry and pedophilia and prostitution and every situation you can imagine. We go through it. We tolerate it. We accept it. We say, yeah, let's do this. San Francisco's a heyday for naked women, in windows and doing shows and stuff. It's the place you go. Because that's where sex happens. That's where free opportunity for people to have a liberal sexual life. And that includes homosexuality, swapping, everything, that you can come up with, is involved in that area, including Satanism, which sits right down into a ceremony of every single thing that these people are carrying out in their nature, which is only a desire nature, but it stems from something, And there's some asshole in a dark black house carrying out satanic rituals, faking as though he's killing women, and then he rapes those women after he's done that. But, in real reality, they've accepted that that's what they want to do. They want to play this out. It's a play, and they're virgins and they know it, but they've joined a cult, and in order for the cult to survive and continue going, they have to carry out this mass. And he writes a Bible, and it gets well known throughout the United States and throughout the world, and this comes with years and years before that of Aleister Crowley, and the movie industry and Scientology. All of that is based on Little Black House, some place where people are doing ceremonial magic, really bad magic, playing out the sacrifice of people, playing it out, whether they're doing it or not. They're playing it out in a ceremony. They get a knife, they act as though they're killing, they say words, it's an invocation. Whether it's happening or not, the ceremony does take place. And we can follow this ceremony all around. And whether or not it happens or not, it is a ceremony. And it's to create an interaction inside a society, something that's a knee-jerk reality inside a society. So whether or not they actually killed a bunch of kids and raped a bunch of kids and raped a bunch of little girls, which is in the ceremony, you've got to be a virgin, and all these kind of things have to be a part of the ceremony because that's what you're sacrificing. And in that process, they're invoking something to manifest inside of humanity. So years down the road, we get to a place to where, now we're ready for other information, more information, stuff that tells us, that it's not a bad idea to think that it's okay to change your gender or come in contact with a situation where, pedophilia is going on in conversation with people and playing it out in, going to a prostitute and saying dress up like a little girl. That's pedophilia, folks. And we tolerate what we don't really understand what it is that invokes it into the masses of nature that causes these people to carry it out. It's one thing to carry it out, but it's what is behind what it is that invoked it and then got it into people and they became obsessed. A lot of obsessive, very compulsive, obsessive processes out there, and they're all in the realm of the psyche. You have to go to a psychologist because it's in the realm of the psyche. And you got to try and figure it out because it's part of the psyche. And it's not just psychicism, it's the psyche, it's the mind. The mind takes on delusions of grandeur, and it also picks up energy. If you go to a church, You know, you can pick up psyche. You know, you can all believe really strongly, and all of a sudden you're shaking like crazy, and you're feeling really reverent, and you feel like, oh my God, this guy's got energy, save us all, and you're dancing up and down with your music and everything, and you're just building up a psyche, and that happens in every church. The bigger the church, the bigger the psyche, like the Catholic Church. Look at the size of that sucker. And then they join you in it. Come on, drink his blood. They even say it. Drink his blood, eat his body. What? What? What are you saying? But we tolerate because we're inside. We don't know their invocation invokes Lucifer. We don't know it. This shit should drive you crazy. Finding this out, it should drive you crazy. But instead, you get conspiracies that are lesser truths that are easier for you to adapt to. Because this isn't about a conspiracy of the Catholic Church. It's about the truth. The truth. It's being done in a language you don't understand. And you're eating and drinking blood and eating the body of Christ. Where in heaven did that ever get explained? That Jesus Christ offered his body for you to eat? And blood came out of his body showing that he was dead for you to drink? I mean, really? I mean, is it a parable to the relationship that you want to be the chalice? You want to be the holder of that blood as it's coming out of his body? You want to be him, his body, which would be the chalice? The chalice, the soul? Maybe there's hidden mysteries in the process of the truth. And this half-truth, which gets you in a dogmatic state of thinking that you, in a super duper, super spiritual way, are going to receive the body of Christ. And you're going to be saved, and you're going to be super duper. You're going to be a Christian, freaking Catholic. Super duper. As though that has some effect over you, as being something other than deluded and now confused. And now you're praying to his mother, rather than Jesus himself, all alone, just Jesus. You have to read the Bible and you hear about these 12 disciples, betraying Jesus, walking away and never really having a relationship with him again. As far as they know, he's gone. Then you study other history and you find out he did resurrect. He did live after that. He continued living after that. He went to India. He went to Srinagar. He went to all these places, all found throughout history, except by his disciples. But if you study, where did his disciples go? They went to India. What the heck would they be going to India for if they weren't trying to follow Jesus Christ? They would have stayed right where they were at, to give the gospel, to the people of their own villages, of their own faith. If it wasn't the reality of the fact that Jesus did go to India and Jesus did leave and didn't leave any note or notice and didn't ask for them to follow. No conversation whatsoever. But they heard and they saw him after he was dead. And they realized he was alive. So all of this, is churned in. It's a truth that you're completely kept away from. In a church that's supposed to be based on the direct lineage of Jesus the Christ and his disciples. Direct lineage. But that's a really good place for you to get hit. And it's a very good place for you to get hit. And the influences of that brings in the people who are at the time. That would be Caesar, it would be Herod, it would be a pretty evil group of people. And people reincarnate. And part of this thing is to eliminate reincarnation, eliminate the teachings of reincarnation. That means you can't say Jesus is a Buddhist, and you can't say Jesus reincarnates, and you can't say Jesus went to India because he believes in reincarnation and he wanted to follow the teachings of the masters and the avatars and do what would be normal, you know. You can't say any of that because that is kept from you in the Catholic Church, in the Christian reality, and it's kept from the Hindu reality, because they're in the same dogma. It's a circle of dogma. And we get caught in the dogma of the people of the time. And the time at that time is a yuga. It's a Kali Yuga. It's a cycle of time that influences the earth, influences humanity, because we're the furthest away from God. So here comes the avatar, Christ, and he comes right at the strongest time of the Kali Yuga, which is the darkest time of humanity. And up comes Christ. Now, what would be the experience? You wouldn't recognize him. His own mother wouldn't recognize him. Despite the fact the angel said, this is who he is, he's not your son, da-da-da-da. But still, she can't shake it off. Nope. He's my son. I gave birth to him. I named him, everything. That's mine. Not going anywhere. He's mine. And the same thing with the father. And it wasn't until much, much later, a whole other cycle of events, that we don't get to know. We don't get to know what happened during those events because no one had any particular interest. They couldn't see him. They couldn't see him. They just could not see him. And even though, he was born from there, he knew everybody, and when he left, he was like 9 to 13 years old, and he was very recognized as one of the highest living persons, child, anointed by God, truly a little prophet, recognized by many people in the area. So if he'd come back, the ability to receive him and recognize him should have been strong, but it can't be because of the Kali Yuga, because of the forces of Herod, the forces of Caesar, and the forces of the dogma that was inside the disciples, the dogma that was inside the mother, the dogma inside the father. So no one really could see him. So he goes where people can see him, and he teaches and he gathers people who could see him and recognize what he's doing and how the teachings gather together and create a dharma. That means that he's not of the yuga of the time. We were in the beginning of the Kali Yuga, which there are no teachings. You can't verbally give teachings to someone and have them receive it. The only thing you could do is instill the energy of faith in a person, so that the influence of faith inside them keeps them. They will meditate, they will let go of certain things, they will stop certain actions, but they won't attain enlightenment, and they won't be able to discern, discriminate the teachings. But they can learn to begin to discern, discriminate. Very little, but mainly only through faith, because the focus in the Kali Yuga is in your solar plex. It keeps you really, really low. You're very solar plex oriented. But if you take that solar plex and lift it into faith, then you're taking it into the heart. And in order to have faith, you have to focus on the heart. And you don't know that. It just is what's happening. Just by trying to have faith. Hard times, okay, I'm going to calm down. What's making you calm down? Your faith. Your attitude, your little switch, of faith. And it's an understanding. There has to be a bit of wisdom. There has to be a little bit of this and that comes with it. Life gives you, reasons to have faith. It teaches you as you go along, right? So it doesn't matter what yuga you're in, the influence, if you take the faith in that yuga, then you could be lifted up in consciousness so that you could receive more than just faith. In time, you could be directed toward teachings. Now, in the next yuga, our Kali Yuga goes to the Dwarpa Yuga, the next yuga, which is the yuga that we're in. That's the yuga of energy. The other one is the yuga of materialism. Everything is materialistic. So we're coming out. All the incarnations of people who ruled the world are coming out of the Kali Yuga, and they've ruled every one of us, yeah? And they look down on people because they're materialistic. Yeah, they own everything. They're kings, they're queens, they're emperors. They're materialistic, and that's the yuga that we come from. Yeah, and that slowly but surely through the ages, yeah, 1600, 1700, 1800s, this becomes closer to the age of enlightenment. Yeah, an area of energy that comes in from masters who are not stuck in the yuga, who's not in lower mind. Yeah, like Yogananda and Babaji, yeah, and Yukteswar. Yukteswar wrote a book, talked about the yugas, and gave, in the 1880s, gave a teaching around the yugas that it would be in around the 1880 to 1900 to 1910 that consciousness, energy, would enter into the minds of humanity, and men would start thinking about the electron. They would see light, and they would see geomancy, and they would see things within the consciousness of God that would elevate them into energy and understanding energy. And we'd keep being moved by the reality of energy. And that includes mapping out how fast is light? And what is an electron? How does an electron spin around a neutron and a proton and all this stuff? And all that is part of the truth. And yet it's so freaking small. That's a very hard piece of truth to work out. Yeah, but that's where we're going. Yeah, we're going toward the truth, and it's going to be energy that leads us there, which would be moments of enlightenment. You know, the electron, the making of electricity, the making of electric car, the making of solar panels, the making of all these things, computers, technology, all these things are the advancements of enlightenment that don't come from materialism. Yeah, they come from a dwarpa period that is telepathically being projected within humanity by the masters of the world, yeah, the higher minds, the higher initiates of the world. So we're quicker and quicker. We're moving toward the consciousness that comes with yugas that are more and more free. Yeah. So we're actually getting everything from the future, but almost 99% of it is coming from masters. Yeah. Just like Yukteswar. He didn't sit around and make computers and, you know, invent the laptop and come out with all these things, you know, even though he didn't die until the 40s. You know, so, and technology, science, Einstein, all that was coming into action. But he was sitting, meditating, having direct conscious relationship with Babaji, receiving these teachings about how fast it is the speed of light, and what is the geomancy of the earth and its relationship to the pyramid and its relationship to the phi ratio, and how that can formulate the real numbers of the yugas. So it was really confusing for most of the masters to figure out what is the real time element of the yugas until this period of time. Once we figured out the speed of light, and that the earth itself was a specific number, and that it rotated at 360 degrees on an angle, and that it went around another spiritual sun that was in an arc in a very specific way. And until we get to a certain mathematical point in time where we have computers and we have all of this stuff, where we can verify what was said by the masters tens of thousands of years ago, written in books, yeah, we can verify it now. We can actually take those numbers and verify it. And that gave the real, right now, in the last 10 years, we got the real numbers, the actual equations of what the yugas really are, when their dates are, when their cycles begin and end. And they're absolutely correct, yeah, because they work within the star system that we're in, yeah, and that star system is cyclic. So we're putting ourselves knowingly within that star system in our planet and its cycles. Yeah. So right now we're coming out of a cycle that is all energetic, but the energy comes from the next cycle up. which is the Tetra Yuga. And Tetra Yuga is psychic energy. Yeah. There's one where we're all materialism. Well, we do not have mind over matter. It's a diva situation where psychic energy, material, it goes into materialism, and all of a sudden the physical body only desires wealth, desires fame, desires all these delusionary concepts and realities that are in the mind only of a demigod. And not a real human being, not an angel, nothing like that, but a living freaking demigod. So it's only during the time of the Kali Yuga do we pick up impressions of demigods. And we take on those likenesses, and we become warriors and evil beings, extreme contempt of every vice you can possibly imagine. And that moves through the earth, and it continues through the earth. But now we're in the Dwarpa period that allows us to receive the energy that's coming in from the soul. Yeah? And that activates higher mind, and that gives us the ability to build a computer. And how do we get to the moon and go to the moon? Yeah? How do we fly spaceships and build spaceships? Not fantasy books, not fantasy, yeah? But actually plan it out, go through all the hardships it takes to pull it off, and you'll actually find the devas, the angels, are helping you in every aspect of your growth. Every aspect. Because it all comes from the future. And it feels like it as you're passing through it. It's so, oh my God, this is the future. You know, you get into a Tesla car, oh my God, this is the future. This is crazy. Oh my God, I have a solar house and I don't pay an electric bill. This is the future. This is mind-blowing. This is driving me nuts. Yeah. And my car, I never charge it. I don't ever go to a gas station anymore. Oh, this is the future. This is way into the future. Compared to everybody else, this is so futuristic. It's shocking, yeah, in the system, simply because we are either deva or diva. Yeah. There is, you either are one or the other. Yeah. You don't get to choose. Yeah. Because you are incarnated as a deva. You're incarnated as an angel. You're incarnated that way. Yeah. So when we come into this yuga, we actually get the energy that gives us the life, like laptops, cell phones, electric cars, all the things that is going to be our life, that's coming into our life, all are coming from phases of enlightenment and not phases of darkness or evil or, any kind of vices. They're all coming from phases of enlightenment that come into humanity, and it's usually like 50, 60 years ago. And all those seeds, this is what an electron is, this is what a proton is, this is what a transistor is, this is what a diode is, oh, this is a circuit board. Now you start seeing the whole freaking thing in your brain before it's ever built. Yeah, that's how most of the major computers and most of the major software is even worked out. It's worked out in a higher consciousness thought form. Yeah, and it's all finished. It's all done. It's not like a hardship. It's not like a difficult thing to do. The only difficult thing there is to get the cooperation to pull the pieces together, because it's really about this information is coming from many different sources, and you have an enlightened, awakened situation because those sources are tapping into you, and you're more unified, you're more open-minded, you're more able to pull those sources in and make use of them. Yeah. So they turn into new science projects, new inventions, new directions that actually fulfill destiny. And we have no idea that we're on the roll of destiny, and all this is coming through the Dwarpa, through energy and all of that. Yeah. So that's our reality. Yeah. But we have our past life realities on top of us at the same time. Yeah, we have the reincarnation of Hitler, we have the reincarnation of Mussolini, we have major assholes still incarnated today, lying to everybody and doing it with, contempt. Yeah, as though they have all the right in the world to do it, and they're not going to stop. You're going to have to kill them. Yeah, and that's harsh. That's really harsh. But in heaven, that's the way we look at it. They're going to die. It's all a matter of time. Yeah. And everything has its time. Yeah. And how things move forward, being ignorant and unconscious of reality, doesn't help people in their process of making changes and doing all the things they need to do in order to alter their outcome when they die and their outcome when they take a new incarnation and the kind of life they're going to live. Yeah, because if you don't clean it up and it's not getting cleaned up and you haven't gotten your virtuous actions, you can still have bad habits. You could still have really bad habits, but it's the virtues that you're going to carry to your next life. And you'll build that body with those virtues, and you'll have a characteristic building setup come in that will give you destiny. Part of your life will be planned out for you, as you go into your future life. That's just how it works. God plans out our life. Yeah. And we're so far off from our life, from the dharma that creates destiny. We're in manifest destiny, and we're living in a state of karma, and we're serving assholes that are so karmically indebted to Satan. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so you can't blame yourself for nothing. Yeah. If you just listen to what I'm saying, you'll understand that this is about the yugas. Yeah. And we can lift up. There's a science of God that actually gets us into a place to where we can not be the suffering of humanity during all the yugas. Any yuga. Doesn't matter if you're in the Kali Yuga, no matter what yuga you're in. You can still be fully enlightened. You can be like Jesus, you can be like Babaji, you can be completely enlightened. Doesn't matter of the yuga. But the yuga, if you don't work it out, you will fall directly into that yuga, and the yuga will be in control of you. And you'll be what's fostering the yuga's expression. Your lower consciousness will be that yuga. But during that yuga, there are rishis, masters, highly enlightened beings, that are existing during the time of people's dark period. So be one of those people. Be in that lot. Grow into that, because that's the way the world turns. The opportunity is there in people. It's all a matter of, right now we're in the Dwapara period. This is the time that it sucks right now. Habits are terrible. Everybody smoked, everybody drank, everybody lied, everybody tolerated stuff that they shouldn't have tolerated, but they had no idea it was wrong. So they just went along with it. They had to. And that's bad karma. That's bad karma. And it's on our heels. And we're tied up like in knots. But the energy that's coming from God is untying those knots and giving us opportunities and circumstances that have nothing to do with the past that made those knots. Does that make sense? Because we're not in world wars. We do not have teenagers going off to war. We did. Just back when I was a teenager, all of us teenagers went to war. That's not so long ago. I'm still incarnated, It's not like a way history, but it is that long ago since we've had that. In Iraq, it was nothing compared to Vietnam. It was nothing compared to Korea. It was nothing compared to the First and Second World War. Nothing. 90 days, come on, give me a break. So we are really being changed through the process of not going through these wars. But we still have a lot of people who were in the war of Hitler and reincarnated. And they're all running around like saying, why is it I have to, you're the one who screwed my life up. You're the one who screwed this world up. You're the one who trashed the world, all you old hippies, all you old elderly people. You're the ones who ruined this place. And why should I care about you? And why should I even consider caring about, the past, that Hitler thing and all this stuff? Why do you want to talk about that? And that really is the consciousness of people who come from that era. They don't want to talk about it. They were in it. If you were born in 1980, then you were born your last life in the year 1900. And you served either Hitler or in the American War or in England or in France. Yeah, there wasn't any way, if you were born in the 1900s, you were not in war. And which side did you serve? And how many of you were involved in that relationship that created Scientology, that created Satanism, that created all the things that we got stuck in? You know, these false teachings that we're now in today, because we so easily follow these cults. Yeah. Because we're not that far away from our previous life. 1900, you know, you reincarnated in 1980. If you died early in maybe 1940, you know, then you reincarnated in 1940, you're back off in Vietnam. You know, it sucks. You know, so many people who went to Vietnam served in the First World War. You know, so that's really you know, a horrifying. That's why so many of those people had PTSD. So many of those people went completely bonkers and crackers. Yeah, because it was one life after another in that hellacious scenario. Yeah, and we broke from that. Well, we're now in another area of life, and we're trying to foster the reality of world peace, ending the relationship to war in countries that rule because of money and oil or trade and control. Yeah, all that we've had in the past are processes that we are going to move and change through, but we have no idea that these things are happening. But right now we have had the last 4 years, we've been hit in the psyche, you know, of a really bad renting, you know, of humanity. You know, everybody in the whole world going through the process of whether or not all men are pedophiles, and whether or not a lot of people are gay, and whether or not, you know, we're all going to die, you know, of a pandemic, you know, and it's already been a year, and now it's, you know, it's keep going, you know, and, you know, that is really stressful to the entire system. And, you know, due to the influence of this Dwapara reality and the ending of the Kali Yuga and the bringing in of Shambhala and the coming of the Christ and the make manifest of all the Metatronic reality of the science of God that I'm putting out is a counteracting influence of what is going on. So it really did make it possible for people to vote against this guy, even though he rioted against America and, you know, tore down the Capitol and, you know, made everybody think that it was a conspiracy and it was a false election. Yeah, and it was just the biggest lie. And that's just the kind of thing that he or others like him would do. If you had Michael Jackson and you got him busted, try dragging him to prison. It would be the same thing. It would be the exact same thing, yeah? Saying, okay, Trump's not president anymore. All right, so we're all going to get angry, we're all going to get violent, we're all going to storm, you know, really? We're going to storm the United States Capitol, really? Oh yeah, come on. You know, hundreds of thousands of us, yep. And we're the brigade, and we're going to call ourselves, you know, the militiamen, you know, and we're going to wear military, and we're going to actually be hired by Trump. You're going to find that a lot of these people who are storming were actually hired guards for Trump and his family, and they were wearing military uniform, and they were actually the people who actually went in and stormed the deal. I mean, it's going to get really weird, yeah? But, you know, we've got that, you know, we've got reincarnation, and that's what we're not getting. In order for us to psychologically deal with this and know that it could be all right, you know, if we realize reincarnation does exist, yeah, and that this is just our past catching up to us. You tolerate, and it's going to come around. You tolerate this gay movement, some weird shit. Let me tell you, it's going to come around. And one of the things that's going to happen is that you love kids. You know, everybody loves their kids, yeah? And you may have a boy, and your boy wants to run in track or be, a long distance runner, or a pole vaulter, or do something of all the skills in the Olympics. Yeah, you may want to do that. Yeah. Well, what goes on in the Olympics is that we have the girls and we have the boys. And the reason why that is that way is for human rights. So people have equal rights. Now, if you're crazy, gay, homosexual, or some other derivative of insanity, yeah, then you're going to come out and say, well, but I'm a boy, even though I've got breasts and a vagina and I can have babies. Yeah, I'm a boy. Well, a guy could do the same thing. Well, I'm a girl. And I'm not that good at running. But I'm a damn lot faster than those girls are. So I can win trophies. I can even get on the Olympic team. All I got to do is be evil. Intentionally evil. Homosexual evil. Yeah. And actually claim to be a female. Go ahead and sign up, for track. Now this has already started because Pelosi and other senators have written a bill, an H5 bill, that allows LGBTQRSTUV to be able to have all the rights, of anybody, and but not understanding rights, not understanding human rights, that there are male and female, and that's what rights are about. Yeah, it's the right for the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, and here you are, you're in your gender. Yeah, what might make you happy? Falling in love, having a family, woman finding man, man finding woman, might make you happy. Yeah, pursuit of happiness. That's one thing. Yeah. Well, what if you're an athlete? Well, if you're an athlete, then if you're a girl athlete, then you run with girls and you compete with girls of your age and your weight and your height. Yeah. And that is human rights. Those are rights. Yeah. And we see this with discernment and discrimination without some glossed over delusionary psychic impulse that comes from a homosexual that wants to express these views that, hey, gender doesn't exist. Yeah. So now we've got these poor kids, and this is happening today. We've actually got a lot of kids who are wanting to run and, do all kinds of things and compete. And they're winning their trophies, and they're getting their badges, and they're getting their things, yeah. But that's all ending. Yeah. Because if you're a guy and you're running against a girl and you choose to be a girl, then all of a sudden the girls lose their place and the guy takes that place. There's only so many slots when you're in an athletic reality. Athletic reality has to do with competition. Competition has to do with your ability to reach that level. And it's hard. That's the beauty of athletics, not sports, but athletics. Yeah. So here you're going to run around track, 4-minute mile. Wow, Okay, well, I'm going to try and beat the 4-minute mile. Well, you got to train, do everything you possibly can, and you can't beat a 5-minute mile, so you're not eligible. Yeah. But what happens if you're one out of 10,000 people who have that athletic ability and are drawn to go for it? Yeah. And you happen to be a girl. And you want to break that mile. You want to have the right to pursuit of happiness. Yeah. But all of a sudden now, here at this time, this cycle of time, where we're starting to say women have rights, what are those rights? How can we allow them these rights? Well, right now, you're cutting off all the rights by accepting homosexuality. You're cutting them off. Yeah, because it does not allow the real true right of people to be moved through their soul toward whether it be athletics or a relationship or a job or a position. That's why it's always, why is it I'm in the same position, I'm just as qualified, I'm just as smart, but I'm not paid the same? Yeah? And you should be. There shouldn't be anything that's keeping any differences away. Yeah? But we have an undertow, an energy, an influence. Yeah? And this is about energy, and we don't know that energy is involved, and it happens through invocation, evocation. And it's behind the scene. It's not something you're aware of. It's prejudice and bias, and it moves people to think that they are an illusion that doesn't exist. Yeah? And they desire to be that illusion to fulfill a desire. Yeah? And whether it's pedophilia, or sex with the same sex, or any other process, if it's actually a process that's keeping a person from their dharma, actually keeps people from dharma, and we don't really know how dharma works, but we're on the road. We're on the road for human rights, for black people to have the right to vote, all people to have the right to vote. And we find out that all people don't have the right to vote. Yeah? And if you're black, and if you're in a certain area, there are congressmen and other people that are going to do their darndest to make it impossible for you to be able to vote. And they'll eliminate your ballot without you knowing it. Because these hidden processes go on, these dogmatic processes that aren't right. They're not right, and they're wrong from the past, and they still come in. And we have new things coming in, things that are part of the last 20, 40, 50 years that have to do with sex magic and the process of money magic and the manipulation of people's souls. Yeah, and we're being moved into that, and we're going to have an outcome that comes out of that. Right now, we're just in the process of suffering from people being in the war a lot and having to go to war. Yeah, but we don't know what it's like for these people when they no longer are in war, and now they're suffering, and they're going through all their processes, and they've never had any time to heal it. All through the Kali Yuga, all they did was create perversions to get through their aversions. Yeah. Can you imagine how many times people had to eat things that they didn't want to eat? How many times people had to drink things they couldn't drink without getting sick and die? And every time that happens, it creates a psyche, a bent reality of your desire body, a fear, a hate of things. And it becomes delusionary. It becomes conceptual. And we could be moved through, many people who are on the Dark Lodge, many people who are greedy, many people who are, under their spell of previous life. Reincarnation of Hitler, reincarnation of Mussolini. These people, come and they're like a torrent, taking the energy and moving people. This energy of Dwarpa is a psychic energy of love and compassion and intuition that comes in to take the place of this other energy that manifests in people to be subservient toward that process. Just like if they say, you cannot be homophobic. Now, first of all, you've just been made psychologically sick. Now your label is crazy. Your label is homophobic. Now you're nuts. Yeah, you gotta get rid of that. What are you gonna do to get rid of that? What are you gonna do? Go kiss some guy because you got guy. You better go make out with another guy so you can get rid of our homophobia. Yeah, that's pretty much how they put it. Test yourself. Have you gotten rid of it? Yeah. Do you put on girls' dresses? Does it bother you when you see another guy wearing a girl's dress? If it does, you're homophobic. What? Maybe it just frickin' bothers me. Maybe you're perverted. Maybe you're sick. Yeah? But when you're constantly moved to tolerate and then say the opposite of what you really feel, after a while you don't feel that way anymore. And you're slightly gay. You're more and more gay than you were yesterday. Yeah? And that's not good. As long as you don't tolerate it, you won't get it. But the more you tolerate, the more you accept, the more you just go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Then it leads you to the point to where now they're teaching kids in school, yeah, and they're entering gender changes so that young boys at an early age can become girls and girls can become boys. Yeah. How's that going to do for you and all the rest of the world if this works out the way they say? Yeah, then all of a sudden, we all got to kind of be gay because we're not sure whether or not the person we're attracted to is the same sex or the opposite sex, because it's covered up. Now, why is it covered up? Because by nature, you would not be attracted. So if they can't do that, then what do? They put on sweatshirts, they put butch hair, they take hormones to get a little mustache or something, get their voice to change, more rough, and that gets the opposite sex to think, well, you're more of a guy, I'm kind of attracted to that, I'm not so gay. And that's very common. And you'll see the other side where the guy is talking like a girl. And it's totally a play. It's totally a play in order to attract. They'll do their eyebrows, they'll do, whatever it takes to attract. They'll put their ring on the thumb, they'll put their symbols of clothing, in order to tell other gay members that this is how they do their great gay life. That's not normal, people. We don't behave like that. The rest of the world does not behave like that. This is a whole other lifestyle, and it is deceptive. It is deceptive. Yeah. It's dangerous. It's hostilely dangerous. The outcome of it and the future is going to be your worst demise. Your worst demise. You have fallen back out of your spiritual integrity and be so many lives before you can enter into being susceptible to the vibration of your true self. Your true self, that's what this is about, isn't it? Not about whether or not you're gay. It's about your true self. And you are exactly what you are. You need to be self-realized, self-actualized. And it doesn't mean you're in a split of a question. Oh, I'm in a girl's body, but I'm a guy. Well, if you're in a split of a question, you're far from your reality of your true self. You're not self-actualized. You're going to have a long way to self-actualization. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. Now, you could do it the other way, and you can make that person think and take away psychologists, that's all illegal now, and allow this person to be told on the internet and by everybody else that they're on the right path, that it's likely their true self. Yeah, even Bruce Jenner will go, well, I always thought I was a girl. Really? Every one of us never thought of you as a girl. Never. Any one of us. Only a gay guy would think that. Yeah. And yet he says he's not gay. Absolutely not gay. Are you kidding me? All it is extreme suppression. You go to extreme suppression, you change your gender so that you can accept your homosexuality. That's how bad it goes. And the others just wear semi-female clothing and speak in a female form and do all the things to create the attraction that goes with that lifestyle. Yeah. But the dangers of it is beyond your wildest imagination, because we're in a world to where everything's supposed to be out in the open. Everything. Yeah? And everything is simple in the world of heaven. When we go back to heaven, there are no guys having sex with each other. Yeah? There's no girls playing with each other. Yeah? It's not in heaven. It ain't happening there. Yeah? There is a natural relationship between male and female, and a natural relationship of kindness and caring and consideration and understanding and wisdom and sharing and equality. Yeah? And whatever love is manifested here on earth is also there. Yeah? So if you're Krishna's with, Lakshmi, in whether there or here, it's the same. Yeah? That's real heaven. It's not the perversions that you have here, you'll find there. No, you'll find them in hell. Yeah? It's the only place that you'll find those actions. You will not find them in heaven. Yeah? You will not find an angel carrying out any of those actions. No thoughts, no actions, no nothing. There's no split in heaven. There's no I wonder if I can do this or that. There is no nothing like that. It is the truth. It is just the truth. If you're hungry, you're hungry. That's that. Yeah? You smell a flower, you smell a flower. You don't question it. You don't have a doubting mind. You don't have a doubting thought. There's nothing in heaven that is separate from the truth that is expressing in heaven. And that's exactly how it's going to be here. There's no difference between heaven and earth. The only difference is the energy, the psychic energy that comes from inhumanity and inhumane behavior that is, thought and believed for some strange reason to be the purpose behind God. Whether it be the Catholic Church or the Dalai Lama, and his slavery process and beating people and cutting their hands off and taxing people and taking their eyes out and all of that. The great Dalai Lama, yeah. Or the Pope having the richest covenant in the world with the devil, and holding everybody at bay and giving nobody mercy whatsoever. Yeah. Staying in his own little coven with homosexuality rampant all around. Yeah. All these influences are there simply because we're coming out of this Kali Yuga. Yeah? But we're coming into energy, and this energy is what's going to change us. And when it's going to come so fast, by the year 2035, we'll have technologies, we'll have advancements, we will have flying cars. Yeah? They're going to be just like the drones we have, very similar. Yeah? They'll be built into the car. The car won't be so odd and strange and all that. It'll look like a vehicle. It'll fly on its own. Very simple, very safe. Yeah, it gets you a long distance. It'll totally run on electricity. It's everything you could possibly imagine, and yet everything in the past just wasn't developed to bring this about. But now everything is developed. So we have an enormous explosion of enlightenment taking place. That it comes in as an offering to humanity so that they can choose an enlightened life. Yeah? Go out on a van that's completely electric with solar panels in, and you drive around for free. You don't have gas, you don't have propane, you don't have to worry about water because you have a hydration system that comes from the sun that allows it to take the water out of the air, and just pours 1 gallon to 5 gallons a day, into your tank. You never have to worry about it. As long as there's air, you're going to have water. Yeah. As long as there's sun, you're going to have electricity. And as long as there's wind, you'll have electricity. So our future is very enlightened, by people who see the world in an enlightened way. Yeah. And they're going to invent it in that way. So big, so many cooperations will become corporations. Yeah. Instead of independent corporations, there'll be large cooperations. Yeah. that are all working together in order to facilitate, what it is humanity really wants. What they want is safety. They want the truth. They want healthy food. They don't want all the things they've had in the past, because it's just old and terrible, and it is hard for us to deal with. Our toilets are wrong. Our use of gas cars is wrong. Electricity coming to our house is wrong. We could end up like Texas in just 1 year. Every major state could be suffering like Texas. And yet, because of these hardships, we're going to learn, and then there's going to be millions of people in Texas going, holy shit, I'm getting myself a vehicle that has a generator in it, and I'm going to get solar panels by next year. I don't care what that electric company is going to provide me. I'm going to take care of my family. And I'm going to help my neighbor take care of his family. Because I cannot stand to be on this block and watch people die like this, needlessly. And all the technologies and advancements are there for us to move forward and save this. Nation to nation, city to city, town to town. All that can happen. And it'll happen so fast, beyond your wildest imagination, just simply because the opportunity through enlightenment and investment and cooperation, people's needs and hardships, will bring people to a place where they realize this is the only way for us to do this. There aren't a bunch of avenues. We now are given the true avenue. There are batteries we can put on our house that are really cheap. We can buy a Ford F-150 that has a generator in it and fill that tank up, and it'll last us a half a week, and we can plug our house into it. Literally, it has its own inverter. A Ford F-150, a regular Ford F-150, came out just last year that has that ability. And many, many, many vehicles are being set up in that way, for people who are utility trucks and businesses and things like that. So we're moving very quickly to where we have all the things we need. It's just a matter of going through certain hardships so that we realize, this cuddly little situation I've got here is going to kill me. I am not set up for if this electricity goes away, or if it gets really cold, or can I pay the mortgage on this house if anything goes wrong? Should I really cut myself down to a much smaller situation? All these things are opportunities that we didn't have 3 years ago. We didn't have legality of tiny homes. We didn't have the ability to legally buy a tiny home and for you to live in it someplace. You couldn't. It wasn't legal in the state of Oregon, California, no matter where you're at. Now cities are making ordinances that are allowing tiny homes to be built and even be used for people who are homeless. But we had to break through this whole area of not believing we should do that. So we're going to make it illegal. So we can make sure we have good housing programs and the way we think it should be, not the way people want it, but the way we think it should be. And that really made a big hit in society, so that people now are getting heard, and things are changing dramatically. So over the next 10 years, we will have Trump so far behind us, it's ridiculous. I don't know how long he'll already be in jail, but he'll be very far behind us in his consciousness. Listen to what he said. This is what he said about the process that happened over his lies.
More than 100 Capitol police officers were injured in the violent insurrection on the U.S. Capitol on January the 6th. 5 people died. Those are the facts. But what you are about to hear is a lie from former President Trump.
It was zero threat. Look, they went in. They shouldn't have done it. Some of them went in and they're hugging and kissing the police and the guards. They had great relationships. A lot of the people were waved in, and then they walked in and they walked out.
Does this look like a great relationship? An officer crushed in a door as the mob pushes to get inside? Or how about what Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn told our Don Lemon about that day.
Once I had time to sit down and put it all together, it was just so overwhelming that here we are giving so much and putting our lives on the line to protect democracy and keep it, and we're being called racial slurs, traitors, and any just weapon that these people could use because they were upset. We had officers that took their life because of the stress that they endured from that day. That is what happened. I don't know how you can word it any different than what.
Yep, that's what happened, yeah. Not according to Trump. Now they hugged, they kissed, they love each other. It was such a nice event. Everybody had a casual day. Then they walked out, went back home, everything was cool. No, what are you talking about? What? What? Somebody died? No, nobody died. Everybody dies, sooner or later, all right? Yeah, let's not talk about that. Yeah. There's an enormous, imagine, look at this in relationship. Here you have Trump, and I got humanity to turn against him, to vote against him, yeah, and humanity got really pissed off, you know, because we didn't elect Trump again, you know, we voted against him, yeah, and that can't happen. It could not have happened, yeah. So imagine if Michael Jackson had been busted and they found him guilty of raping 2 little boys. And there are actually 9 of them. 9 children of 10 years old to 13 years old. 9. All had anal sex with him. Yeah, 9. Yeah. And he was never busted for any one of them. Yeah. So we saw him go through the court. We saw people coming out every day, you know, him standing on top of the car, you know, making, you know, just ridiculous. Yeah. And then when he was released, they released doves, and you know, it was like the biggest celebration for him to be exonerated. Yeah. But what if he wasn't? Yeah. What would our experience have been? Well, we had riots. Yeah. Could they have rioted the police station? Could they have got aggressive, violent, hostile? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, we just didn't get to see it. It didn't happen. Yeah, because it just we agreed with it. We tolerated it. We accepted it. You know, him having sex with little boys. You know, there wasn't any actual proof, so we couldn't really do anything about it. Yeah, and you know, but the key is what would have happened. It would have been the same energy, same process, same cult following. Yeah. So there's an enormous, you know, in all of this, there's an enormous process of these cult processes that come from our past lives that reincarnate and come back around. And we either go through it in the right way, but whatever way we go through it, it's going to be the right way. God's going to make it right. Yeah, there's going to be justice, yeah, and there will be, people will be freed from the process of these people, yeah, and we don't really know that, you know, that here Jesus is on the planet and he's watching Michael Jackson and he knows who he is and he knows who he is from the previous life, and he witnesses Michael Jackson come out and wearing Hitler clothing, you know, declaring himself the reincarnation of Hitler, you know, and, you know, so Jesus knows that everything he's saying about this man is true, but no one else knows it and no one else sees it. But that has a direct effect on Michael Jackson. So he dies at a very young age in a very horrible way, yeah, and because of the light that's being placed on him. You can't run from the light. It's like, I give advanced soul therapy to people. I make it a possibility for people to come in, do soul therapy in a pyramid, listen to my pujas, receive advanced soul therapy, all of that. And that has a transmission to help people, but these are people who want to be helped. Yeah, when they want to be helped, the influence when it comes in is helpful. It balances things out. It makes things better. Yeah. But if a person is a person like Michael Jackson or Trump, you know, and they don't want anything to do with Jesus Christ. They don't want to be found out for what it is they're doing, and Jesus Christ would know what it is they're doing, not just in this life, but previous lives, keeping them from a future life that would allow them to do continued relationships of evil against people, because it's their characteristic. That can be burnt up in one life by my focus. Yeah. And the person dies in a horrible way, not a good way at all, you know, but I have no choice in the matter. I don't have anything to do with it, nothing. Yeah. Still, he has options where he's going to go to court, and everybody has the opportunity to look and see and make the right decisions. But if they don't, it's still going to be ended over into my hands. Yeah. So every living person on this planet is in that boat. Yeah. And no one really knows where they've been from previous life. Yeah, you know, because we've been in the Kali Yuga and we have no connection to try and figure out to be a better person in a life rather than be a person of fame and fortune and greed and all those things, you know, which is only coming from our past lives and our blindness toward more avarice. Yeah, so those things are what move us, but I'm an opposite spin. Yeah, I'm going to affect change in that. So right now we're in a Dwarpa movement. You know, we've been in it for quite a while, and that means a whole new consciousness inside of humanity, and it's based on energy. Yeah. So all this radionics and all this healing that I do with the tools and everything is based on the ability to be, for people to be receptive to the divine reality of themselves. Yeah. And that divine reality works into their chakras, and it creates a person to be moved to go do something differently, to see themselves as different. Yeah, whether if you see yourself as gay or whatever, and it's in the perverted reality of your left-hand path, and it's not in your soul, but it's in your personality, fixed from previous lives. And that could be 1,000 lives in that personality. There's multiple personalities in people that are based on this reality, and we don't know it. And if we don't start working it out, those multiple personalities will come up in every life, and you're gonna, you know, be tripping, you know, as to who the hell am I today? What am I gonna be tomorrow? What should I be doing in this life? The confusion is beyond belief, because we have these deluded multiple personalities that would love to continue what went on in previous lives. But in reality, we're not here to live our past. We're here to live our future and be in the present and get excited about the newness of the future. We don't know the future, yeah? But in this other thing, we want to relive our habits, and we want to relive bullshit that comes from the past because we're not ready for the future. We're not ready to be in the moment. And that's what this healing, all this science of God is about, is to help you get that and move into that and heal from that. Yeah. So let's do some praying. I'm sure you're ready for that now. Definitely use some praying. Okay. Oops. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus the Christ, open my heart today, and I invite you to come inside. Come inside, Jesus the Christ, and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Receive me, Jesus the Christ. Now, the devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. And renounce every evil covenant I have entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. Take a deep breath.
Their strength is mine. This strength I claim. My strength is theirs, and this I freely give. A soul, I walk on earth. I represent the one. radius of the world of glamour, I take my place, and there I stand. Before the open door that just reveals a different lighted way, I take my stand. Love is the incentive of our aspiration and path. Love is the substance of our living in the world. Love is the light and the light of freedom from all creatures. Love pulses to the universe in a divine May the holy ones whose disciple I am show me the light I seek. May all mankind, may all humanity, may all light on earth make manifest the soul in all things, all life. I invoke the radiant golden sun to manifest the thread of the soul into the kingdoms of the elementals, into the kingdoms of the animals, into the astral plane. I invoke all humanity to become the caretakers of the kingdom of God. I invoke the will of God as the soul. forth points of energy within themselves, inaugurating certain new techniques in work and in modes of communication. I invoke the group of telepathic communicators. I invoke the group of trained observers. I invoke the group of magnetic healers. I invoke the group of the educators of this new age. I invoke the group of political organizers. I invoke the group of workers of the field. I invoke the group of scientific servants. I invoke the group of psychologists. I invoke the group of financiers and economists. I invoke all creative workers as the new group. I invoke the externalization of the inner existing of conditions within this group, and the
Okay, just relax. You can open your eyes. Okay, this is one of my older disciples, Yukteswar, and his book, several books came out, and one of them was to help me in my process of getting this influence of energy onto people, developing psychic abilities, healing abilities, the new group of world servers. All of that is based on many different levels of my disciples' abilities, whether or not they can help transmit these things. So one of the things he's pointed out here, it's such a great influence of time which governs the universe. Yeah, that's what I was pointing out, how all of the yugas are based on the frequency and elemental reality of time. How fast is the speed of time, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 365 days, on Earth is a year, and the moon goes around about every 30 days, so there's a very specific mathematical process that goes on that seemingly, if you don't pay attention, it seems like it's just coincidental. And we're lucky because it keeps coming back around. The sun comes up every day, yay. And we're not freezing to death, yay. All these things that seem to be right. But what most of that is change, and how do we deal with change? And so whatever the yuga is, it says here, no man can overcome this influence except him who, blessed with pure love, the heavenly gift of nature, becomes divine, being baptized in the sacred stream. And that's the Om. Yeah. No matter what cycle of time it is, whether we're in the Satya Yuga or we're sitting with Krishna, Babaji, or whoever, we'll always be aligned to the one thing that gives us that stream, which is the Om. Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether we're here in the Kali Yuga and all the things that go on. If we can meditate and if we can find a source to the Om, we might find more information in regards to that Om, which is what I'm helping to facilitate. I'm giving you the name Yukteswar, I'm giving you history that is based on recent history, past history, things like that. So this helps you understand the fact that what we're doing is a part of a very ancient science. Yeah, a science that effectively helps the evolution of our whole entire being. How many times have we been around all these 4 yugas? Yeah, when was the last time we've been here? You know, well, what was that, like 29,000 years ago? Yeah, and 12,000 years ago? Well, when was that? Was that the end of the Satya Yuga? Well, what happened at the end of the Satya Yuga? We got a pyramid. We got a pyramid, and we don't understand how the hell that thing got built. Aliens or God or something. Well, we ain't got that skill now. We don't have those abilities. We're not that mechanically able to do those things. We're not psychically capable of lifting those things. We can't do it. You know, but we were the ones who did it. And we did it in that yuga. And it's something that we did 12,000 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a major effect on us. When we look back in history and we understand these yugas, and we better understand these yugas more and more, then we can look back and find more things. We're going to look through archaeological ways. We haven't found anything yet. We haven't hardly even looked. Yeah. So as we begin to look and we understand the yugas, we understand what was in the past 12,000 years ago, makes all sense in the world. There was a flood, there was this, there was that. All that is in the yugas. It shows it right there, why the flood would come. It was the end of the Tetra Yuga, beginning of the Kali Yuga. Yeah. So that would be the cycle of such a thing, a horrible thing like that to happen, because of the behavior inside of humanity was so treacherous and so dominating and so struggling. And demigod worship and all the things that were going on was horrendous to your wildest imagination. Yeah, I mean, the theories behind Atlantis, that's a very old civilization. That's close to 30 to 40,000 years ago. That is many yugas ago. Yeah, and it was during the time when we were passing through, last time, when we were passing through the Kali Yuga, which would be a devastating process of any civilization that we developed during the Satya Yuga, like the pyramid. And now we just see it as a structure, you know, whether it's holy or what, we don't know. And we can't even find Atlantis. We just heard of it, you know, because it's so long ago. And so many big things happen during these yugas that literally wipe away everything. You know, it is a big process, and it's not uncommon. It happens all the time on Earth. So we're in another phase. We're in this process as we gain this ability, gain these new technologies, and the advancements of new advanced technologies will bring us into another world, another light, another way that will change all of our understanding. But the real key to it, the actual key to the science, is Om. And we'll find that Om is the frequency of light. Om is the Schumann wave of Earth. Om is the vibrational frequency of that Schumann wave. Om is everything that comes down to what comes out of nature. What was the original invoking spirit? Yeah, the spark that started it. And if we just take that as a practice, yeah, then we're co-creating, and that's our actual realization. Our realization is the Om. There's not a lot of other things. The Om keeps us steady in a way in which it allows us to receive the receptivity that comes from on high and not from below. So it continues that process of coming from above, and it draws us upward from our solar plexus into our heart, from our sacral center into our throat. It naturally draws us upward. And if you study these yugas, the weird thing about it, I don't know if I showed it in here, but I'll show it later, probably during the Yeah, I didn't. But probably during the darshan, I'm going to talk about the yugas. And there's another process of looking at the yugas, and that there's 7 of them, and not the way that we look at them. Because if you see the yugas in the circle that they are in, they're not an exact circle, but they're in a circle. And you see that it's cut in half. Yeah, and you have a Satya Yuga up here and a Satya Yuga. They're both together on the top. And then comes on each side is a Tetra Yuga and a Tetra Yuga. And then below that is a Dwarpa Yuga. And they're across from each other. So as you're coming down, you come into that, and that may be 5,000 or 6,000 years. And then you come all the way around, and you have to come back to it again as you're going in the ascending. Yeah. So these are kind of separate yugas. Yeah, so you count them that way. I do. I count them that way. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have these 2 down here, and that gives us a total of 7. You know, so when we step into it, we actually are focusing on 7 yugas, and they align in the healing aspects of our chakras. So each of the yugas are part of our yogas in relationship to God actualization, self-realization, and actualization. We're actually directly connected to God. And if we don't have that going on in a strong way, then we represent the lower aspects of the chakras in an unhealthy way, and they show as yugas. Yeah. And if we stay in a saintly way consistently, and our chakras staying in these ways, not dropping out of that at any time, you know, then we become a rishi, a saint, and you know, a high being, a bodhisattva, you know, bodhicitta, bodhisattva, you know, and that changes all the yugas in their process of transformation. Yeah, it allows everything to go through a lesser and lesser and lesser struggles, less suffering, less everything. Yeah, so we transform the yugas by raising everybody up. Yeah, and moving it into the light. Yeah. All right, so enjoy. Thank you all very much.